Greetings and peace. I would like to start this with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours in the month of May 2024. Now, the book that I would like to cover in this presentation is one that is heavily censored, and it's funny because it's a secret itself, both the author and the book, as it's hard to find today. No one mentions it. And I have the honor and privilege to do so today on the secret sects of Syria and Lebanon by Bernard H. Springett. Bernard H. Springett was known for his significant contributions to the study and documentation of not only Masonic history, but the origins of Western mystery schools. Among his notable works is Secret Sects of Syria and Lebanon, a consideration of their origin, creeds, and religious ceremonies and their connection with and influences upon modern Freemasonry, published in 1922. Keep in mind, my goal is not to talk about Freemasonry ever again on this channel, as I've mentioned, but the purpose of this presentation is to cover the origins of Western mystery schools and where they take it all from. This book offers insights into various secretive sects in the Middle East and their possible influences and practice on the practices and rituals of modern Freemasonry. Springett's work is often referenced in studies related to the historical and cultural aspects of Freemasonry, highlighting his role as a scholar in the domain of Masonic history and its interactions or intersections with other secret or esoteric traditions. This specific book or work by Mr. Springett dwells into the origins, beliefs, and rituals of various esoteric and secretive groups in the regions of Syria and Lebanon, and explores their connections and influences on all of the Western societies today. And this book goes into the Middle Eastern origins and how they have basically influenced and intersected Western secret societies, particularly what we know as Freemasonry. His work, Springett's work, is noteworthy for his detailed research and analysis and the complex interplay between these different groups that interacted with each other. And the goal of Mr. Springett was to uncover the broader historical and cultural currents that have contributed to developing all of these rites in the Western world. Now, moving forward, his book goes into various themes and connections, and they are listed as follows. 1. Historical overview. Springett offers a historical account of several secret sects, including the Druze, the Nuzaris, who are the Alawites, and the Yazidis, among others. He traces their origins, development, and the socio-political context in which they emerged. 2. Belief and practices. The book dwells into the complex belief systems, rituals, and ceremonies of these sects, highlighting their unique theological and cosmological views. He discusses how secrecy and initiation rites play crucial roles in their preservation and continuation. 3. Connection to Freemasonry. A significant portion of this work is dedicated to drawing parallels between the rituals, symbols, and teachings of these Middle Eastern sects and those of Freemasonry. And the connection is there on how the Crusades and other historical interactions between the East and the West could have facilitated the transmission of esoteric knowledge and practices to Europe, which eventually influenced the development of Freemasonry. 4. Cultural and religious syncretism. The book explores the idea of syncretism, how different religious and esoteric traditions have blended over time, leading to the emergence of new practices and beliefs. Springett's analysis suggests that the secret sects of Syria and Lebanon are examples of such syncretism, which in turn have contributed to the syncretic nature of Freemasonry. 5. Influence and legacy. Finally, Springett examines the influence of these Middle Eastern sects on Western esoteric traditions beyond Freemasonry, which including their impact on various mystical and occult movements in Europe. This specific book is a scholarly attempt to uncover the interconnectedness of global esoteric traditions, emphasizing the importance of understanding the cultural and historical context from which these traditions emerge. Springett's work is particularly valuable for those interested in the history of Freemasonry, comparative religion, and the study of secretive and mystical societies. This book explores the ancient secret sects of the Middle East, including their symbolism, ceremonies, and beliefs. Mr. Springett discusses their connection to modern Freemasonry and the persistence of ancient ritual elements in modern life. The book argues for the antiquity and importance of Freemasonry, despite skepticism from some Masonic students. Now, going forward, this book discusses the influence of the Rosicrucians on Freemasonry, particularly their connection to Arabian alchemists and the teachings received during travels in the East. Mr. Springett argues that the source of Masonic tradition ritual can be traced back to Asia and Syria. The teachings also mentions in the various sects and influences on Freemasonry throughout history, highlighting the need for further research and exploration of these connections. And the teachings, and further on, it expresses a desire to strengthen the convictions of not only Masons, but others in the West who do not give any credit to the East. Now, keep in mind, the point of me doing this video is also to share the teachings of this censored and repressed book to the masses, because my goal is to not mention Freemasonry again, as I've stated before on this channel, but to explore what the true origins of all this stuff is, so the right people are given credit. Further, the book discusses the universal principles of Freemasonry and its ancient origins. The book suggests that Masons from different countries and with different beliefs can find connection and friendship through the shared rituals and symbols of the craft. The teachings also mentions the use of certain words and symbols that can be traced back to ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptians and Phoenicians. Additionally, it highlights the universality of Masonic signs and secrets, mentioning their influence in unexpected places like Hindu temples and among the Aborigines of Australia. The book discusses the 5 points of fellowship being recognized by the Nuzari and Scotch Masons, as well as the existence of the ancient mystery. It also mentions the Mithraic worship and its influence on the Occidental nature, as well as the defeat of Mithraism by Christianity. The book briefly mentions the Magi and Manichaeism as successors to Mithraism, and the traditional practices of the Magi and their Latin successors. And it also mentions the 7 degrees of initiation in Mithraism and their significance. In the ancient mystery traditions, there were different levels of initiation, and only those who had received the lion degree became participants in the mysteries. The highest level was held by the fathers who presided over the sacred ceremonies. The initiates went through various purification rituals, trials, and periods of silence and solitude. The sacred wine was consumed, after which the candidate underwent awe-inspiring trials. The sanctuaries were subterranean and included a ladder with 7 steps. Different degrees included purifying lustrations, encounters with giants and wild beasts, or wild animals or beasts, and the imparting of the grand secret of the universe. The lesser mysteries served as a preparation for the greater mysteries, celebrated at Eleusis. The candidate was introduced into the temple by night after purification and given a box containing the laws and ceremonies of the mysteries. The re-initiation process involved becoming an epopes and experiencing a new birth, so technically death and rebirth. The candidate pledged to preserve the laws of the sanctuary and underwent trials involving fire and water. Markings such as the Tau cross and symbols like the sprig of acacia were given to candidates. The Mithraic mysteries were celebrated on December 25th, and the Eleusinian mysteries coincided with the Hebrew Fest of the Tabernacles. Ancient initiation ceremonies in various cultures involved rituals and tests, such as circumcision, fasting, purification, and trials by fire, water, and air, leading to the revelation of esoteric knowledge. The aim of these ceremonies was to provide moral and instructive experiences, but over time, they became more corrupted and focused on something that did not matter, or losing its origins and value. Priests held significant power and authority in these societies, and their control extended to the construction of temples. Freemasons, or similar groups with exclusive privileges, also existed in the medieval period and possessed secrets that were tied to religious knowledge. The ancient mysteries were a secret tradition passed down through initiation, concealing the true meaning of sacred writings and ceremonies. The doctrine of the mysteries was communicated orally to initiates and was not the same as the speculative mistiness of the modern-day philosophers. The Kabbalah and works attributed to Hermes Trismegistus provided direct information on the mysteries. The people of Lebanon, such as the Druzes and Nuzeris, retained practices and customs from ancient times, indicating their unbroken continuity. Lebanon was already occupied by a powerful and warlike people before the Hebrews or Canaanites, and these people, known as the Suroi, Suroi, have dwelt continuously in the land. The Bible and the Book of Jubilees confirm the division of the land after the flood, with Canaan choosing to dwell in the land of Lebanon. Investigations in Babylonia have revealed the existence of an ancient people called the Akkadians, who were highly cultured and may have invented cuneiform writing. The ancient people of the Lebanon region, thought to be Turanian, may actually have been mainly Semitic in blood. They have made advancements in civilization, had religious traditions similar to the Hebrews, and believed in a divine mediator. The Hivites, a tribe exempted from the destruction by the Israelites, were part of the ancient people. The present-day inhabitants of the Lebanon region, the Druzes, are believed to be a brave and virtuous people with a unique system and belief that may have indirectly descended from the ancient Hivites. The exact origin of the Druzes, however, remains a mystery. And I've covered the Druzes before, as their main founders were Sufi masters and Sufi sheikhs. So it's heavily connected to Islam in some way. The Druzes have always maintained their independence against the Turkish government, similar to the ancient Hivites who resisted the Israelites. The Druzes believe that buried treasures are marked by stones or monuments, and they are cautious of excavations. The worship of the pole star is prevalent in various cultures, such as the Phoenicians, Chinese, and Sabians, who were skilled astronomers. And even all of the Arabic names of the stars in astronomy and astrology, it's all right there in front of you. The Sumerians settled in the Euphrates Valley and became the Sabian Mandites, who measured time using the Pleiades. The Sabians were once rulers of southern Arabia and were known as the chief merchants of the East. They worshipped the pole star and considered it the invisible sign of the Father God. They held their New Year's Day service at the autumn equinox and originally began their year with the Feast of Booths. The Subas, as they were called, prayed towards the pole star and believed that their heaven was located in the direction of Al-Midanhuru. There were Baptists who worshipped St. John and continued his traditions, as we see even Masons who handle things by St. John's Day. The Sabians, who were skilled goldsmiths and joiners, but also engaged in blacksmithing and trading. Their name derived from the Mando Dihai, which means living word. They believed in the principles of the winds buried at the four cardinal points and revered the four lords of the four angels of the heavens. They believed in one God, but also paid adoration to the stars. They went on pilgrimages to a place near the city of Haran and had a high veneration for Seth, considering oaths made in his name more solemn than those made in the name of God. They paid special adoration to the 7 planets. The teachings discusses Gnosticism and its influence on various sects and religions. Gnosticism aims to teach knowledge of God and man, challenging idolatrous forms of worship. Initiated followers hold secret beliefs while publicly participating in mainstream religious practices. The progression of those beliefs differs based on region and culture. The Kabbalists created a secret tradition to address the lack of esoteric knowledge in pre-existing Jewish religious practices. The Gnostics, who sought knowledge of God, has similarities with ancient texts of Lebanon and Masonic searches for lost words. Manichaeism, a development of Gnosticism, spread throughout Europe and reached Britain. The European Manichaeans, also known as the Paulicians, were disciples of Constantius Silvanus and had secret grades and forms of recognition. The Templar order was based on the constitution of the Assassins, and Gnosticism survived among the mountaineers of Syria. The order had 8 degrees of initiation that emphasized knowledge and denied the divinity of founders of religious systems. The teachings discusses the degrees and organizations of the Assassins, Hashashins, and the Templars, as well as their possible connection to other secret societies. It also mentions the influence of the Crusades on medieval Europe and the spread of Gnostic ideas. The Ophites and the Basilidians, 2 Gnostic sects, are also mentioned, and this specific part of the book provides a brief overview of different sects, their secrets, and their beliefs. Basilides, a Gnostic philosopher, believed in a series of beings that were created by an uncreated eternal Father. He believed that nous, or mind, was brought forth by God, followed by the logos, word. Pharaonesis, intelligence, Sophia, wisdom, dynamis, strength. Basilides taught that Christ did not die in person, but instead Simon, the Cyrenian, who borrowed his bodily form, suffered in his place. Now, this is the exact way Islam interprets Christ's crucifixion as well, that there was somebody else that took his place, and the real Christ was lifted up into the heavens, and he will return when the time comes to face the Antichrist. The Basilidians were labeled as illusionists because of this belief. There are similarities between Basilides' teachings and the beliefs of Buddhists, Brahmins, and the Mohammedans. The Ophites also taught about the emanations and had a similar cosmology to St. John Nazarene's Simon Magus, another influential figure who proclaimed himself as God and misinterpreted the law of Moses in a fraudulent manner. He believed that fire was the principle of all things and described it as a boundless power. Going further, the teachings discusses the Shute sects, particularly Sufism and the Dervish orders, and their origins in Persia. The book mentions the belief in the unity of God and the worship of the host of heaven. The Sufis are described as mystical philosophers and ascetics who believed in the divine essence of being diffused throughout creation. The teachings explores the Sufi concept of self-knowledge and the reflection of the divine qualities in the heart. Further, it mentions the influence of the Brahmins or the shamans and their teachings on the Magi and subsequently the Sufis. Further, the book discusses various sects and orders of dervishes, focusing their initiation rites and practices. It mentions the Naqshbandi Sufi order, the Kalvedi, Bektashi, and their different beliefs and rituals. The book also briefly mentions other orders, such as the Rufai, the Mevlevi, and Kalendari. It emphasizes the strict discipline and devotion required of new members during their periods as a novice. The book further discusses the initiation rituals of 2 different dervish orders, the Mevlevi and the Bektashi. In the Mevlevi order, the novice is accepted by the chief of the kitchen and then led to the prior for initiation. The prior delivers an exhortation and initiation, and the murid takes a vow of loyalty to the order. In the Bektashi order, the neophyte goes through 1,001 days of being a novice, and then brings a sheep and a small sum of money to the convent. The sheep is sacrificed, and the neophyte takes a vow of either celibacy or the secular vow. The prior leads the initiation ceremony, where the neophyte repeats prayers and receives teachings from the sheikh, while also taking secret vows. The secrets of the Bektashi order are never committed to writing and are only known by its members. When a Bektashi takes a vow of celibacy, he is asked if he is willing to come under the sword of Ali, which signifies a secret vow. The Matawili, a sect of Shiite Muslims in Syria, believe in the value of oral traditions and have their own set of traditions. They reject some traditions believed by the Sunnis. The Metawili are located in several regions in Syria, and their total population is estimated to be around 50,000. The Metawili sect of Syria believes in the miracles performed by the prophets and the importance of reading the Quran. They follow ethical principles similar to other Muslims, dividing good works into duties and works of the supererogation. They believe in the necessity of the Imam who interprets the Quran and acts as a religious leader. The Imam is seen as infallible and a mediator between humans and God. The sect also believes in the future appearance of the Mahdi, who will bring justice and piety to the world. They claim to be descendants of Ali and wear green turbans to signify their lineage. The Metawili have their own religious practices, such as the performing ablutions with little water and using a small cake of earth during prayer. They also have unique customs for pilgrimage and burial practices. The teachings further discusses the difference between the Sunnis and Shias in their interpretation of the Quran and describe the Metawili as a sanctimonious sect with limited knowledge. The text further discusses the Essenists, a Jewish sect similar to Freemasonry, and their beliefs and practices including simplicity, communal living, and devotion to God. The Essenists are compared to the Pythagoreans, and their origin is uncertain, and this specific chapter of the book highlights the religious differences and practices of these sects. Jesus of Nazareth may have been associated with the Essenists and their doctrines, as he expressed dislike for the teachings of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The Essenists practiced a form of religious observance that was in line with Jesus' divine nature. The Essenists, or the Essenes, if I'm saying it right, recognized the spiritual stages of ascent and had a system of degrees. They took oaths of secrecy, chastity, and justice. Some branches of the Essenists, or the Essenes, such as the Nazarenes and the Ebionites, later became actual Christians. The Essenes had similarities to the early Gnostic sects of Syria and may have influenced by Buddhism. The teachings further discusses various sects and teachings in ancient Syria, including Gnostic sects, the Enaratites, and the Essenes, and it also mentions the initiation process and teachings of Pythagoras. Pythagoras' teachings includes the exploration of occult doctrine and the mysteries of nature, as well as the importance of brotherhood, the sacredness of suffering, and the domination of intelligence over instinct. He believed in the divine nature of the soul and its transmigrations after death. Pythagoras' system also involved the unification of three kinds of perfection: truth and intelligence, virtue and soul, and purity in body. His teachings may have influenced Freemasonry, and he required his disciples to undergo a probationary period before being initiated. And keep in mind with Pythagoras, when he came down to Egypt, he studied in the Egyptian mystery schools. So again, the origin of whether it's Freemasonry or any other group goes back to the Middle East. Abaris, an ancient traveler, is believed by some to have been a Pythagorean, and the Druids may have been influenced by Pythagorean ideals and teachings. Pythagoras' conception of God emphasizes that he is invisible, intelligible, and supremely intelligent, and that he is the universal spirit that pervades and orders all of nature. Private mystery cults that satisfies the spiritual needs of individuals also existed alongside the state religion in ancient Greece. Pythagorean schools were part of the Orphic communities and played a role in the philosophy mysteries. The Orphics also improved the Eleusinian. Pythagoras incorporated elements from various mystery traditions into his philosophy. There is a belief that Pythagoras introduced Masonry to Britain. There were sects in Syria that taught destructive principles, and several impostors emerged from them. Al-Muqanna, also known as the Veiled Prophet, gained a following by claiming to have miraculous powers, but ultimately committed suicide during a siege. Further, the book discusses the rise of different sects in the Islamic world, including the Karnachians and the Ismaili sect. The Ismaili sect, led by Abdullah, son of Maymun, divided its system into 7 degrees, each with its own set of doctrines. The sect propagated its beliefs through missionaries and claimed descent from Muhammad, son of Ismail. These degrees were later increased to 9 by the Western Ismaili. The teachings also mentions the use of deceptive tactics to establish blind faith and unconditional obedience among followers. Further, the teachings discusses the Ismaili sect, specifically the Assassins branch, which was founded by Hassan ibn Muhammad as-Sabah in northern Persia. They gained power and inspired fear through assassinations and were an order similar to the Knights Templar. The word sheikh was translated to mean old man in Europe, and the name the old man of the mountain instilled fear in people. The assassins were a secret society with different ranks, including the masters, fellows, and the fedais. They were led by the Grand Master and carried out deadly orders. The assassins gained control of fortresses in Persia, Iraq, and Syria, and targeted prominent figures in Islam. The Crusades, a series of expeditions between Christianity and Islam, took place during this time. The Nuzeri sect, believed to originate from the assassins, is primarily located in Syria, with a significant population in Latakia. Estimates suggest that there were around 200,000 Nuzeris in the mid-19th century. Lieutenant F. Walpole traveled to Nineveh and gained some knowledge of the Nuzeri beliefs and practices, though they remained secretive. The teachings discusses Lieutenant Walpole's experiences among the Ansari sect in Syria, and it mentions their initiation, rituals, and beliefs, such as the transmigration of souls and the practice of circumcision. And the text further provides a condensed version of the Mohammedan creed, outlining the 5 foundations of Islamism, which are the 5 pillars of Islam. Faith requires belief in the necessary conditions of faith, and hating them is considered infidelity. Believing in angels without sexual differences and trusting and loving them is also necessary. Faith in the books of God means recognizing that they are from God and contain His commands, promises, and justice. Denying or doubting these books is considered infidelity. Faith in the ambassadors of God means recognizing them as messengers of truth and having faith in their teachings and miracles. Denying or doubting their veracity is infidelity. Faith in the last day means believing in the resurrection and final judgment. Denying or doubting this is infidelity. Faith in the divine decree means recognizing that everything is decreed by God and nothing happens without His will. Denying or doubting God's pleasure is a virtue or wrath, and vice is infidelity. The teachings discusses various aspects of religious rituals and practices in Islam, including ablutions, prayer, almsgiving, fasting, and the pilgrimage to Mecca. And the text also provides a brief overview of the first 4 caliphs and the 12 imams who succeeded Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. 6 individuals, including Ali and Uthman, deliberated and elected Uthman as the 3rd caliph. Uthman continued the warlike policies of his predecessors and expanded the Saracens' territory. However, factions arose and a mutiny resulted in Uthman's death. Ali became the next caliph but faced opposition from Talha, Zubair, and Aisha. Muawiyah, the governor of Syria, rebelled against Ali and eventually became caliph. This conflict led to the division of Muslims into Sunnis and Shias. Ali's sons, Hassan and Hussein, became caliphs after him, but were both killed in the Battle of Karbala. The Nuzeris celebrate Hussein's death as martyrdom. Ali's son, Muhammad, became the 4th imam and was poisoned by the Umayyad caliph. Ja'far, the 6th imam, attempted to restore the temporal power of Ali's house, but died before succeeding. Ja'far's son, Ismail, and then his second son, Musa, became imams. The Ismaili sect emerged from those who denied Ja'far's second nomination. The Nuzeris recognized Musa as the 8th imam. Ali, Musa's son, became the 8th imam and was assassinated by order of Harun al-Rashid. Ali's son, Muhammad Hanafiyad, achieved some significance. Further, the teachings discusses the succession of imams within the Nuzeri sect, including their names and the circumstances of their deaths. It explores the religious beliefs and practices of the Nuzeris, including their belief in a trinity and the veiling of the deity in light. The Nuzaris also believe in the existence of different hierarchies and the transmigration of souls. The book discusses the beliefs and practices of the Nuzaris, also known as the Ansari, a religious sect in Syria. They believed in the metempsychosis, or the transmigration of souls, and worship Ali, the son of Abu Talib. They also believe in the divinity of Ali and follow certain rituals and prayers. The Nuzaris have their own religious literature, including a manual of instructions and a catechism, which outlines their beliefs and practices. They also acknowledge various religious texts such as the Torah, the Injil, and the Zabur, which is the books that came before the Quran, the Bible, the Torah, the Psalms, and the Quran. Overall, the Nuzaris have their own unique religious systems and rituals, even though they are a subsect of Shia Islam. An article written by Mr. Edward E. Salisbury in 1864 for the Oriental Society discusses the Nuzari sect in Syria. The article provides information on the initiation process, festivals, ceremonies, Nuzarian doctrines, and their authors' personal conversion experiences. And this includes prayers, liturgical forms, and poetry. Further, the book discusses a ceremony in which a candidate is introduced as a member of a secret sect called the Nuzaris. The candidate must have sponsors, and the imam, leader of the sect, asks if they will bring him to be killed if he reveals the sect's mystery. The sponsors agree, and the additional sponsors are chosen. The candidate swears an oath of secrecy and is taught various forms of prayer. The book also explains the meaning behind certain chapters of prayer in the Nuzari beliefs. The Nuzaris believe in the various groups of being, including the twinkling stars, the 8 strong bearers of the throne, the 9 gifted with Muhammad qualities, the 10 chandeliers of holiness, the 11 ascension points of the communicator quality, and the 12 strings of the imamship. They worship a trinity consisting of Ali, Muhammad, and Salman al-Farsi. The Nuzaris also believe in the reincarnation of prophets and the association of certain figures with animals and inanimate objects. I think they call this the Nusk, Musk, and Rusk. The chapter also discusses the dispute between the Northerners and the Chaldeans regarding various religious practices. The Nuzaris religious sect believes that their members are descended from beings who came from heaven without bodies. They have specific rituals and hand gestures for worshiping different celestial bodies. They also emphasize the secrecy of their beliefs and practices, even to the point of hiding their religion to save their lives. They interpret certain chapters and verses of their religious texts metaphorically and believe that their leader, Ali ibn Abu Talib, will have a glorious return. They criticize the Muslim practice of visiting Mecca and consider it idolatry. Their teachings discusses the religious festival of the Nuzaris, a secretive sect as described by Suleiman. The festivals have an ancient origin and are carefully perpetuated with expenses borne by wealthy members of the sect. Suleiman provides a list of festivals along with descriptions of the ceremonies and liturgical forms used. On festival days, the men gather at the house of the festival host, where various rituals and prayers take place, including the use of myrtle leaves and perfumed water. The teachings describes a religious ceremony in which wine is presented as an image of a divine figure. Various rituals and prayers are performed, including the recitation of specific verses from the Quran. The ceremony concludes with the forgiveness of any errors or omissions. In the Nuzari religion, there are various ceremonies and beliefs. Members believe that the spirits of the chiefs of the Muslims take the form of asses after death, and Christian ministers become swine. They simulate other sects and curse prominent figures in Islam. Members recognize each other through specific questions and tokens. The Nuzaris also practice conjugal communism. The Northerners in Syria believe in giving knowledge and property to fellow believers and view their imams as infallible. Suleiman, after being an initiate of the Nuzaris, renounced his faith and became a Jew and then a Christian. Abu Muhammad Abdullah, founder of the Fatimid dynasty, established a propaganda for the diffusion of knowledge among their subjects. Abu Ali al-Hakim, the sixth of the Fatimid dynasty, dynasty is known for his cruelty, and anyone doubting Ali's divinity was killed. Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Darazi and Hamza ibn Ahmad were key figures in the founding of the Druze religion. Muqtada Baha'i solidified the Druze religion. The teachings further discusses the Druze sect, which is divided into two sects, one following the teachings of the Baha'i Din and the other following the teachings of the Darazi. The Druze creed is mixed of elements from various religions and is poorly arranged, but its followers, known as Akals, are devoted to doing good and meet regularly to discuss their creed. To become an Akal, one must undergo a strict initiation process and prove their commitment to the principles of the order. The sect is divided into 3 degrees, and initiation into higher degrees is accompanied by ceremonies like donning a white turban. And further, the Druze traditions also include beliefs about the age of the world and belief that the millennium is near. Religious and political affairs are discussed in meetings attended by the wise every Thursday night. Resolutions passed at these meetings are communicated to district meetings and eventually discussed at the General Assembly in the town of Baklin. The Druzes have a regular family council to which only the wise are admitted, and the uninitiated are not consulted on political or social matters. The Druze's religion can be traced back to the sects that existed in Persia after the rise of Islam. The religion has borrowed doctrines from the ancient philosophers, particularly Persian philosophers influenced by Zoroaster. The Druzes have sacred books written by Hamza and his coadjutors, but these books are only accessible to the initiated. The uninitiated are not allowed to see the sacred writings and have no idea where they are kept. The Druzes have a peculiar culture and nature, marry within their own race, strictly adhere to their traditions, and are known for their heroism. Information on the Druzes' religion found in published works is not considered accurate or complete by the Druzes themselves. The Druzes settled in Lebanon in the 10th century, and their religion is a mixture of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They have a system of passwords and signs and a regular order of priesthood. Initiation into their religion requires a 12-month probation period for both sexes. The Druzes' religion is unique and involves some mystery, with traces of Magianism and Gnosticism, and is characterized by the absolute unity of something. God is the essence of life and can be known through occasional manifestations in human form, such as Jesus and Muhammad, peace be upon them. The Druze religion believes in the 5 degrees of promotion after initiation and holds the belief in transmigration. They also believe in the knowledge of God, the universal mind, and the other 4 spiritual ministers. They believe in a universal system of rewards and punishments, but do not believe in a physical resurrection or judgment day. The Druzes have kept their religion secret for over 800 years and have divided themselves into 2 classes, the initiated and the uninitiated. Initiation requires a solemn covenant and adherence to certain rules and behaviors. The initiated are further developed or divided into specifically initiated groups and those who have devoted themselves to religion. So 2 classes, the simply initiated and those who devote themselves to the religion. The Druzes aspire to outward sanctity and wear a peculiar dress. They display an air of humility and use proper language in conversation. They do not engage in trade, but cultivate land for a living. They exhibit good conduct and morals, but also practice deception and hypocrisy. They meet in a place called Kahi for worship and discuss politics. They have a secret sign for recognition and a form of prayer. Chastity is emphasized in their religion. Further, the book discusses the beliefs and practices of the Druze sect, emphasizing their focus on inner spirituality and mutual support among members. It also mentions the secrecy surrounding their religion and their ability to blend in with other dominant religions. The book briefly mentions an initiation ceremony experienced by a Westerner. A person describes their experience of being initiated into the religious ceremonies of the Druses, a secret order hidden underground. The initiation involves strict adherence to a dietary and ablution rules, reciting rituals, attending meetings, and enduring trials and temptations. The neophyte is tested through the offerings of tempting food and a private encounter with a young Vestal. The initiation also results in mental illusions and visions. The secrets of the Druses cannot be fully explained or exposed, as they are acted out and require multiple initiated individuals. The Druses also have a unique creed that includes belief in the unity of God, the excellence of truth, tolerance, respect for all, submission to fate, chastity, and mutual help. Further, according to religious creed of the Druses, the mind is a perfect being with a free will, and all creations are in accordance with the will of the Creator. The rebel of the mind led to the creation of the devil and the universal soul. The mind and soul tried to force the devil to submit to the Creator with the help of other spirits. The souls in the world were created by the mind and have all the senses and knowledge except knowledge of their Creator. The bodies of these souls are corruptible, but the souls themselves are incorruptible. Heat, cold, solidity, and the mildness are created from the marriage of the masculine and feminine spirits. Chaos created the planet and the earth's internal workings. The 7 planets rule fortune and misfortune, and all happenings are through their agency. The combination of the planets created fire, atmosphere, water, and land. God created mankind perfectly and gave them all the virtues of the mind. He also gave them specific orders to follow, separating truth from falsehood. God showed himself to the people and revealed his unity, leading them to believe in him. There were priests who taught the people and had spiritual powers. Over time, different manifestations of God occurred and punishments were appointed. The law of truth and the disciples of truth existed, but eventually a false prophet arose and deceived the disciples. The law of the false prophet was propagated, embraced by the 7 priests, lasting for a long time. Eventually, God appeared again and established Ali to reveal his unity and establish prayer. The law of the false prophet weakened, and the people of truth continued to follow their own law. The teachings discusses the establishment of laws by Shutniel, the doctor for the people. It mentions 10 things that were established, including equality in production, power of materiality, grace of existence, and freedom of action. The book discusses the jealousy of Harith towards Shutniel and the plot to establish enmity between them. It further mentions Enoch and Shark being deceived and committing sins, but eventually repenting and seeking forgiveness. The disciples of truth followed the teachings of Enoch. The book briefly mentions the appearance of prophets and the establishment of the law of worshiping the unity of an image by Noah. The law foretells the coming of the unity of Hakim, and the disciples of truth follows the laws and teachings of various prophets, including Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Muhammad establishes the law of Islam, and his descendants continue the priesthood. Finally, Qa'im and Sa'id al-Muhdi appear as true prophets, or Sa'id al-Mahdi appear as true prophets. Further, the book discusses the succession of powerful leaders within the Druze religious sect, including their miracles and conquest. It mentions the division and disputes within the sect, as well as the appearance of an evil spirit. The abstract at the end of the specific book summarizes the necessary knowledge and beliefs of the Unitarian within the sect. Further, the discussion is there on the beliefs and custom of the Druze religion, highlighting their belief in the end of the world and the resurrection of their founder, Al-Hakim. They believe that a mighty army from China will bring about these events, and they eagerly await their role in this Armageddon. And that's kind of interesting as we see that in today's time, how China is becoming the leading world power, and they're taking their stance to support Palestine. So we'll see how all those pieces come together. Mr. Springett in this book suggests that the Druzes are a mixture of various mystic groups who have settled in Syria and Mount Lebanon. And he also mentions the resemblance between the Druze religion and the Lamaism in Tibet. Further, he discusses the mysterious religious communities of the Brotherhood of the Ki-Lang in Tibet and the Druzes in Lebanon. Little is known about their beliefs and practices, and even scholars have limited knowledge. The Druzes have underground meeting places where their sacred books are kept hidden, and their public assemblies are merely a front. The Druzes consider themselves disciples of Hamza, and their spiritual teachers are Akals. The Druzes have similarities to Tibetan Lamaism in their beliefs and rituals. The origins of the Druzes' religion is unknown, but is believed to have elements of Buddhism. The teachings also suggest that the Druzes and other religions, such as Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, are all interconnected and influenced by Gnosticism and the Magian system. The Druzes' religion is considered a survival of an ancient wisdom tradition related to Kabbalah, theosophy, and occultism. Crumbling faiths and old sciences are causing the remembrance of ancient truths to fade. The Druzes and the Tibetans, both non-proselytizing religions, have kept their traditions alive. The Druzes believe in seeking wisdom and recognizing the importance of intelligence. The Tibetans show respect and tolerance towards other religions. Both religions have secret schools of magic and hierarchy of messengers. The Druzes have 5 messengers, while the Tibetans have 5 living Buddhas. The Druzes also believe in the reincarnation of their messengers, with the last one being Boha-Edin. The Tibetans believe in the reincarnation of the Buddhas, with the last one being the expected supreme wisdom in the form of humanity collectively. Both religions are deeply mystical and hold ancient wisdom. The book discusses the similarities between the religions of Lamaism and the Druzes, particularly in terms of their mystical beliefs and rituals. It also mentions the belief in a future event where good and evil will be balanced, resulting in the annihilation of a certain number of humans. Looks like that time is here between 2020 and 2029, from my perspective. This specific chapter of the book concludes by suggesting that there may be a deeper connection between these two religions, but that much is still unknown about both. Mary and Venus are both associated with the sea and sailors and are mothers of gods of love. The name Mary means mirror in Hebrew, representing reflection instead of reality. 600 years before Christianity, there was Maya, the mother of Buddha, whose name means illusion. The selection of the new Dalai Lamas in Tibet involves a spiritual ceremony with 3 gold fishes. The Druzes, who believe in a purgatorial Elysium, have a mystical locality called Ram Dagon, which is believed to be an anagram for Rama Dagon, signifying the incarnation of Chaldean holy wisdom. There is a relation between the Druzes and Freemasonry, as the Druzes are believed to be the original subjects of Hiram, king of Tyre, and builders of King Solomon's temple. They retain tokens of their connection with Freemasonry. The Druzes are a pastoral and agricultural people who inhabited mountainous regions and have a strong belief in their connection to the temple, as even Hiram, king of Tyre, his tomb or grave, as you say, is located in that part of the region as well. The book's teachings continue to discuss the Druzes' connection to the building of the Temple of Jerusalem and their relationship to Freemasonry. It mentions that the Druzes know little about the Bible or ancient Israelite history, but they revere Solomon and have similarities in initiation rituals and degrees with Freemasonry. And it also discusses the possibility of shared passwords, tokens, and signs between the Druzes and Freemasonry. And I've covered this in a previous presentation before as well. Further, Mr. Springett recounts his experience with the Druzes, a secretive religious group, and their difficulty in gaining knowledge about their customs and ceremonies. Mr. Springett also discusses the Druzes' belief in one God and their emphasis on brotherly love, relief, and truth. He admits that it is practically impossible for outsiders to learn about the Druze religious system and that the door to initiation is closed to non-Druzes. And even if you look up their holy book, the epistles of wisdom, you're not going to find it. It's not there. And Mr. Springett also briefly mentions the Yazidis, another religious sect in the area who are often incorrectly labeled as devil worshippers. The Yazidis engage in prayer meetings where they worship Satan, inflicting self-harm during their frenzied rituals. Lady Hester Stanhope witnessed these ceremonies and reportedly fainted. However, the Earl of Carnarvon had a different view, noting similarities between the Yazidi and Druze beliefs. The Yazidis revere a peacock figure called Malik Taus, which may represent the bad principle. Charges of devil worship and unhallowed rites against the Yazidis may stem from intolerance and lack of evidence. The Yazidis are ruled by two sheikhs and have a hierarchy of priests, including pirs, sheikhs, qawwals, and fakirs. Circumcision is a practiced rite, but not compulsory. The Yazidis perform a baptismal ceremony where a plate shaped like a cock is placed in a sacred basin, either in the sanctuary of Sheikh Adi or in the house of the sheikh. They believe in a supreme being and revere both Satan and the good deities of ancient Persia. Their religious ceremonies are proprietary rather than Eucharistic. They believe in the immortality of the soul and its transmigration. They possess a sacred book that praises their saint, Sheikh Adi. They also practice and participate in festivals where they dedicate oxen to the sun and light lamps in sacred places. The book describes a gathering at the tomb of Sheikh Adi where sheikhs, qawwals, fakirs, and women of the priesthood come together to sing a sacred song in Arabic. The ceremony includes tambourine, playing flutes, and the energy and excitement of the musicians and singers create a frenzied atmosphere. The Yazidis or devil worshippers believe in a mixture of Sabianism, Christianity, and Islam with a possible Chaldean origin. Arab Freemasonry is also discussed, with claims that King Solomon was the direct founder of Masonry, and that the ancient rites and rituals are still practiced among Bedouin Arabs. And if you see John Wick, you see that the elder, the one who sits above the high table, was a Bedouin Arab. Arab Masonry is described as being highly respected and esteemed, with Arab Masons willing to sacrifice their lives for their brethren. Dr. Coleman recounts his experience with Arab Masonry during his travels in Damascus, where he conferred degrees on 5 candidates with the help of a native lawyer to translate. Arab Masonry is said to be similar to Druze Masonry, with potential influences from the Knights Templar. What in reality, it was the Sufis and the Arabs that influenced the Knights Templars. It is clarified that Arab Masonry is distinct from Dervish Masonry and other political Arab orders. There is reference to a secret society claiming to derive from the guardians of the Kaaba, the sons of Abraham, and their ancient connection to Masonry. And if you look at the Holy Kaaba, you see the rite of circumambulation that Muslims do there. And inside of the Kaaba, you have the pillars and the altar. And the Kaaba is the perfect ashlar stone, the perfect cube. The existence of secret brotherhoods, particularly Zaluwas under Muslim rule, is discussed, with their hierarchies and practices resembling Masonry. Mr. Springett suggests that modern Freemasonry draws extensively from the stellar cults, originating in Egypt and incorporating elements of solar worship, Persian and Chaldean teachings, and the Syrian and Lebanon sects, which have been mentioned here. The influence of the Crusaders and the Templars on Masonry is mentioned, as well as the revival and development of Masonic rituals in the 18th century. The belief that Masonry or Freemasonry is a purely 17th century creation is criticized as ignorant, considering the evidence of the longevity and symbolism of these traditions, rituals, and rites. Further, the teachings discusses the influence of the ancient Syrian rituals on modern Freemasonry. It highlights the importance of King Solomon in both Syrian traditions and Masonic rituals, as well as the use of symbolism and the doctrine of the Trinity. The book further mentions the qualifications for admission into Freemasonry and the significance of purity in the initiation process. Priests and the choristors in Christian churches wear impressive vestments resembling the clothing of the magus or the hierophant, and the Druze call webs, a sentinel guards against intruders, similar to a tiler in Masonry. Masonic rituals incorporate elements of open-air assemblies and initiation ceremonies in the mysteries. The Nuzaries have penalties for breach of faith, similar to those in Freemasonry. The Druze initiation ceremony involves the restoration of light and the presence of the volume of the sacred law. The two pillars in Freemasonry symbolizes the dual principle of the Almighty Creator. St. John's Day, a festival in Freemasonry, connects to solar worship and the reverence for St. John the Baptist. Further, the discussion is there on the influence of Druidic rites and solar worship on Freemasonry, as well as similarities between Freemasonry and ancient religious sects such as the Manichaeans. The book suggests that medieval crusaders may have been involved in the continuation of ancient mysteries and highlights the persecution faced by these sects from established religious institutions. Despite efforts to ban Freemasonry, it has continued to spread and thrive, now declining. The suppression of the Templars by Pope Clement V and King Philip IV of France only served to strengthen the teachings and rituals of the Templars. It is believed that the Scottish rite of Freemasonry originated from rites instituted by Jacques de Molay, the Grand Master of the Templars, while he was imprisoned. The influence of the Manichaeans on the Crusaders also played a role in the spread of Masonic teachings. German Masonic writers have traced the connection of the Manichaeans with the Western Brotherhood of St. John. This secret teaching has been linked to the origins of Freemasonry. The Grand Lodge of Germany asserts that Freemasonry originated from the building fraternities of the Middle Ages, but existed as a secret society even before that. This secret society aimed to perfect the human race and pass down its teachings to the Templars and later to the Masons. The knowledge of this secret tradition was preserved by the canons of Jerusalem, who were grateful to the rescued Syrians for their rescue and taught them their own secret knowledge in return. When the Templars sought refuge in Scotland, they founded a chapter where the secret knowledge was passed on further. The book discusses the special protection of the Knights Templar and how their symbolical allusion to Solomon and his temple may have influenced Masonic rituals. The book suggests that after the Order of the Temple was suppressed, some of the knights may have perverted previously harmless ceremonies into elaborate rituals that incorporate the errors of the Templars. Further, the book addresses the argument that the Knights Templar could not have continued to exist for nearly 450 years unknown to the outside world, countering it by pointing out that there may have been other religious groups that have secretly existed for longer periods of time under more violent opposition and persecution. Further, as we go into the finality of this book, it also mentions various resemblances and connections between Freemasonry and other ancient religious practices, such as the journey of 7 years, libations, and the symbolism of the Templars. And this specific part concludes by highlighting the common goal of Freemasonry to find the presence of God within. Further, the author, Mr. Springett, he lists in this specific chapter, list of various books and articles about different religious groups and ceremonies, including the Sabbites, the Sabaites, Mandaites, and the Christians of St. John. And he also mentions the history of Freemasonry and secret society of all ages and countries. Going on, the discussion is there about a secret sect called the Mandaites in Syria who worship the North Star. They have a yearly festival where they build a temporary tabernacle by the river. The members bathe in a circular reservoir and then dress in white ceremonial garments. They gather outside the tabernacle and await the arrival of the priest who perform rituals and release a pigeon. The worshippers then prostrate themselves towards the North Star. During the Nuzeri festivals of Christmas, the senior priest reads the Sham Shato confession while the congregation repeats the phrase, "Blessed be thy name, O source of life." 2 other priests prepare communion by kindling a fire and baking small cakes. The fourth priest sacrifices a pigeon and pours its blood on the cakes, which are then distributed to the worshippers. The high priest recites their renunciation prayers towards the North Star. Later in the festival, a sheep is sacrificed and its meat is distributed. The festival concludes with a benediction and the worshippers returning home before sunrise. The festival combines Christian and Islamic beliefs, as Mary is seen as the same person as Amina, the mother of Muhammad. Further, the discussion is there on various religious festivals and rituals, including the celebration of Nowruz by the Nuzaris, the Muharram ceremony of Shia Muslims, and the lamentations for Adonis and Tammuz. And it also mentions the initiation rites of the Semitic peoples, including the covenant of Abraham and the Nazarites. Further, the discussion is there on the similarities between the Druses of Syria and Freemasonry, suggesting that the Druses may have copied secret signs and tokens from Freemasons. There is debate among the brethren about the validity of these claims, while some requesting more evidence. And Mr. Springett also mentions the Druses' simple methods of healing and tells a story of a woman being cured by a native-born doctor using medicinal herbs. And there is a description of two pillars in the castle of Haran that are believed to have been part of the throne of Nimrod. According to Josephus, the descendants of Seth created two pillars to record their wisdom about the heavens and their orderly arrangement. These pillars were made of brick and stone and were believed to have been located in a place called Syriad. Some theories suggest that the pyramids may have been the pillars of Seth. The Phoenicians worshipped sun pillars known as the Botili or the Beth-El, while the Greeks had pillars of Hermes. The two pillars described by Herodotus were year pillars used to measure time. The first pillar represented the southern god of the setting sun, while the second represented the god of the moving sun. Enoch, who was considered a great teacher, was credited with inventing writing, arithmetic, and astronomy. He is also known for being translated to the other world. In one legend, Enoch, also known as Idris in Islam, requested to see hell and then paradise, refusing to leave the latter. He claimed the right to stay and his claim was recognized. Khunu, also known as Hermes, was born in Egypt and identified with Thoth. Moses had extensive knowledge of astronomy and incorporated it into 5 books of Moses and the tabernacle. There was a dispute between Adam and Moses did not teach the doctrine of immortality. Elias, the founder of the Essenites or the Essenes, was said to have come from Elias, and the Essenes were a mix of Christianity and adoration of heavenly bodies. The ancient book of Jasher, containing the words of Jehovah and the Annunciations, is still preserved in heaven and among the people of Great Tartary. Operative masons at Solomon's temples were classified into apprentices, fellow crafts, and masters, each with specific signs and words. During the Babylonian captivity, Jews practiced Freemasonry in regular lodges, with 3 grand lodges in Sora, Pompeditha, and Neharda. Gnosticism emphasized the concepts of right and left as symbols of purity and impurity, influenced by Zoroastrianism. Porphyry was a scholar critical of Gnostic beliefs, favoring Mithraism. Mani, the Persian Hariasarch, or one of the Persian prophets, took his name from the Hebrew word for comforter, or one who comforts, comforter. And Sidon is an ancient city with Phoenician and Roman influence. Ruins near Marah in Syria showed Masonic marks, and ancient olive groves were thriving in Athens during Pericles' time. The grove south of Tripoli is over 1,100 years old, with trees that look like ruins. The area was once planted with olives. The myth of the phoenix is discussed, with the bird being associated with the worship of the peacock and symbolizing renewal. The triquetra symbol is debated by Jesuit missionaries. Further, the teachings discuss various symbols and ornaments, such as the national blazon on the Isle of Man and the Seal of Solomon, which have religious and mystical connotations. It also mentions the use of the trefoil or clover leaf as a symbol of the Trinity in different cultures. including ancient Persia and the British Druids. The book further explores the concept of paradise and its geographical location according to different religious beliefs. And further, it mentions the names and functions of the 7 archangels. And as we head into the conclusion, there's also concepts of debating on the origins of the Quran and similarities to other religions. The Quran's creation and authorship is debated among the theologians. There are different interpretations regarding the origin and meaning of symbols, such as the swastika and the act of circumambulating. Hindu tradition tells the story of Vishnu's 3 steps in the orientation of Masonic lodges is influenced by the rising and settling of the sun and religious symbolism. Religious practices across different cultures and time periods have shown similarities in worshiping towards the east and using symbols related to the sun. Masonic tracing boards in ancient Christian churches demonstrate these patterns and symbolize different stages of existence. The decline of practical Freemasonry coincided with changes in religious beliefs during the Reformation, leading to the disappearance of their secret building methods. The rhombus or vesica was a fundamental geometric figure used in medieval churches, symbolizing both descent and ascension. Freemasonry is a moral institution focused on worshiping the true God and included a view of the divine plan in its rituals. Further, the discussion is there on the various topics related to ancient and modern initiations, including the transition from ancient to modern initiations, the use of certain symbols in different cultures, and the founding of the Rosicrucian order. And Mr. Springett also mentions the use of tobacco in Syria and the exchange of knowledge among different cultures. And further, there are various topics which are shown in towards the end of the book, such as the future, the church, philosophy, and the Kabbalah. It mentions Christian Rosenkreutz, his travels, the Knights Templar, and the Masonic meeting in a mosque, which I have covered in previous presentations. And I encourage you all, go to my YouTube channel. As you're watching this on my channel, go to playlist and go to my playlist, which is called Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry. And please take your time reviewing all 50 videos and presentations in that playlist, as I will answer many questions for you on the Eastern, Islamic, and Sufi origins of Freemasonry. Various sects and orders in Syria and Middle East included the Druzes, Nuzeris, Ismaili, and Freemasonry. And Mr. Springett gives a description of their beliefs and initiation ceremonies. And towards the end of the book, he discusses a variety of topics, including sexual ideas, the festival of Christmas, the old man of the mountain, the myth of the phoenix, various sects and religious beliefs, pillars, festivals, and worship practices. And again, he touches on the origins of Freemasonry and its influences, and also mentioning figures that we have spoken about before here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is a good book, and keep in mind that this book is heavily censored and suppressed, and not too many people know about it. And even the origins of Bernard H. Springett, nobody really knows who he truly was. Maybe he's using his real name, maybe he's not. So I recommend that you check this book out, read it, study it, and even what I was able to cover in this presentation to the best of my ability, I hope I was able to do it justice. So thank you all, and I wish you all a great month of May 2024. Assalamu alaikum.